southern border. With us now to talk about this and more, Democratic Florida Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who sits on the Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees. Congressman, it's great to see you. I thank you for being with us today. I want just to start our conversation with your reaction to the impeachment of Mayorkas.
Well, congratulations to my colleagues across the aisle. They continue their historic run here in the 118th Congress, where they removed the Speaker, which had never been done in American history, and now they impeached the Cabinet Secretary by one vote, and they had to do it the night before the election because they knew they were going to lose a congressional seat. But they impeached the Cabinet Secretary, even though he committed no high crimes or misdemeanors or treason or anything enumerated in the Constitution. But they did it, and they broke a 150-year-old rule. So congrats to them on this streak of just winning. We're so tired of winning in the 118th Congress over here. They've accomplished absolutely nothing. They walked away from the border deal, which would have secured the border because Speaker Trump told them, not to do it. And I call him Speaker Trump because he's running this place. I see this guy, Mike Johnson, walking around masquerading as the Speaker. But Donald Trump is the Speaker of the House. But they walked away from the border deal. Mayorkas is still going to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. The Senate is not going to do anything with this. So this was a whole show about nothing, which is what the 118th Congress has been, more chaos. And the only thing that Mayorkas will have to do is edit his Wikipedia page and put in there that he was impeached by the 118th Congress.
And so, Congressman, lots to talk to you about that. But so let's talk about the border bill is dead, right? I mean, it's not going to happen. So how do you deal with a humanitarian crisis at the border and throughout our country?
Well, I think we just got to be honest, which is, look, Republicans have been talking about the border for a while now. I give them credit for that, right? And then Democrats join them at the table to try to make a deal because let's go back, real quick, just, 90-day history here. They said, well, we're not going to help Ukraine. We're not going to help Israel if we don't secure our border at home. Democrats said, okay, no problem. So we sat at the table with them. The Senate came up 3 months. They come up with the most conservative border deal that we've seen in a generation. And then all of a sudden, my Republican colleagues are like, holy cow, we got a deal. What are we going to do? And then all of a sudden they were like, well, if we solve the issue, we can't use it as an election issue here. And politics as usual in Washington, D.C. now, with a one-man party being able to kill a bill that would have secured the border, would have limited fentanyl from coming into the country, would have ended catch and release, would have done these things that Republicans cry for every single day. So what do? We got to talk about it. I mean, I'd like to say that we're going to pass this lovely, beautiful bill here in Congress, but we have no idea what's going to happen. You throw out the rule book. I mean, this place is barely functioning. They got a 2-vote majority. And so we don't know what's going to happen. What we should be doing is what the American people have asked us to do and sent us here to do, which is to make sure that we're improving the economy, that we're making things less expensive for the American people, and that we're protecting our allies and friends around the world. And right now, my colleagues in Congress are doing none of these things. They're too busy doing grievance politics.
So, Congressman, let's turn to the situation in the Middle East. It's been 130 days since the October 7th massacre, 110 days since Israel went into Gaza. The war continuing there. Tens of thousands of people have been killed, more than 1 million civilians forced to flee their homes. How do you see that, and what do you see, and what do you want to see happen there?
Well, what I want to see is the hostages released and a prolonged ceasefire in exchange for the release of all of the hostages. That's what I think everyone wants to see now. But until Hamas is willing to return the hostages, Israel needs to continue with the war to eliminate Hamas from the Gaza Strip and free the Palestinian people from Hamas, quite frankly. So that's what I think we need to see now is we need to see Hamas release the hostages. I also think Hamas should surrender. I mean, if you want the war to end tomorrow, you want a full ceasefire for eternity, then Hamas needs to surrender. There is no scenario in which Hamas is going to continue to be the governing authority in the Gaza Strip. I also think we need to work to figure out how we can get more humanitarian aid in to the innocent civilians in the Gaza Strip. They are caught in the middle. Hamas put them in great jeopardy by the atrocities they committed on October 7th, and have used them not as just human shields, but as propaganda and expendable. Don't listen to me. Listen to the words of the Hamas leaders who have said that. And so I think we need the all-the approach. We need to get humanitarian aid in there, and we need the hostages released in exchange for a prolonged ceasefire.
And Congressman, today marks 6 years since 17 people were killed when a gunman opened fire at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. You graduated from that school. You've been there since. You've led tours of the building for members of Congress from both parties. Just thinking what your thoughts are on a day like this.
Well, I mean, you know, it still feels like yesterday when I arrived at the school a couple hours after the shooting, and we're with the families, you know, in a ballroom, you know, where, you know, the families were separated by a partition when law enforcement, the FBI came in and told them, you know, where their kid was or where their husband was or where their family member was. And, you know, I didn't hear crying. I heard screaming. It still haunts me. My own 4-year-old son was put into a closet at the time. The teacher that put him into a closet was Jen Guttenberg, Fred Guttenberg's wife. So while she was teaching my son how to write and protecting my son in a closet, her daughter Jamie was killed. And I think about what the parents said to me that day. All they did wrong was send their kid to school. The parents didn't do anything wrong by sending their kid to school. That's an indictment on elected officials who, before February 14th, failed to protect kids at school. You know, thankfully, in Florida, in the 3 weeks in the aftermath, Democrats and Republicans came together and passed, you know, monumental gun violence prevention, mental health, school safety bill, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School Safety Act, championed by, you know, a majority of Republicans, raising the age to 21, red flag laws, 3-day waiting period, signed by Rick Scott, who became a U.S. Senator. We did the right thing after that, but we continue to see these things happening all over the country. The same failures that happened in Parkland happen in Uvalde thereafter. And, you know, parents, when they put their kids to bed at night, turn to this place, the halls of Congress, to try to do what we can to keep their kids safe in school or in a movie theater, at a church, in a synagogue. We are failing those parents and family members. And so what I'm thinking about today is I'm thinking about the empty chairs at the dinner table, the empty rooms in the homes, and the families who are visiting their kids or their spouse at a cemetery all day today.
Congressman Jared Moskowitz, I thank you very much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jose.
And I want to, as we go to a break, just show this image. The 17 innocent victims of the massacre 6 years ago today.